All right, welcome back to the program. Coming up a little bit later in the hour, we are going to be talking to Senator Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee about this report that Richard Blumenthal, a Democrat senator, says is going to outrage all of us as the Senate studies and demands information from the Secret Service about what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, and at Trump International in Florida. But guess what? We've got some new crime data. Wouldn't you know it? The media says crime is way down under the Harris-Biden administration. We're bringing back my next guest. He is the author of Gun Control Myths, How Politicians, the Media, and Botched Studies Have Twisted the Facts on Gun Control, Dr. John Lott Jr. Thanks for coming back on this one.
Well, it's great to talk to you again. Thanks for having me on.
All right, last time you were here, we were talking about how crime reporting is down, not crime. You have some new information.
Well, unfortunately, the media, there's all sorts of headlines out today saying that crime is down, violent crime is down. And what they should say is that reported violent crime using the FBI data is down, but total crime is up. I mean, less than 2 weeks ago, we had a report from the Bureau of Justice Statistics, which looks at total crime. So there are two numbers. The FBI basically gets reports from police departments around the country about the number of crimes reported to police. But we've known for many decades that most crimes aren't reported to police. Only about 40% of violent crimes are reported to police. Only about 30% of property crimes are reported to police. And the way we know that is from something called the National Crime Victimization Survey, which surveys about 240,000 people each year. And what you find is that during the Biden administration, over the last 3 years, serious violent crime, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault has increased 55%, a 42% increase in rapes, a 63% increase in robberies, and a 55% increase in aggravated assaults. What has happened over the last few years is that while reported crime has gone down a little bit, slightly, about 4% during the Biden administration total, because, by the way, the media is ignoring the fact that the FBI redid its numbers from 2022, and rather than a 2% drop, it found about a 4.5% increase that had occurred in violent crime. They've completely ignored the fact that total crime is going up. And they didn't report on the National Crime Victimization data that came out 2 weeks ago. And even today, they refuse to call it reported crime is down, and they refuse to even now mention that there's other numbers out there.
Well, I mean, we've gone over this. When you have woke prosecutors that are either not prosecuting crimes or reducing the charges, and couple that with the fact that major police departments like New York and LA aren't even reporting at all to the FBI.
Right.
And you've got this crazy mayor in Chicago who's like, we're going to get rid of those gunshot tracking devices we put up on the utility poles. We don't want to know where the gunshots are coming from. Well, yeah, but the media has taken that as that some great, I guess, policy of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris has done this. That's not true.
Right. Look, I mean, you're exactly right. There are a couple of reasons why reported crime has gone down. One is we've known for a long time, if people don't think the criminals are going to be caught and punished, then, what's the point of going to the effort of reporting the crime? But beyond that, we've made it more difficult for people to report crimes. In many parts of the country, if you call up 911, what they'll tell you is they'll ask you, is it an emergency? Which means, is the criminal there right now committing the crime? And if the criminal's not there right now committing the crime, they say, well, rather than sending out a police car like what we would have done a few years ago, you can come down to the police station and you can have a police report filled out. Well, if you make it more difficult, more time consuming for people to go and report a crime, guess what? There are going to be some people who previously reported crimes who aren't going to be reporting them now. And in fact, one of the more amazing things with the FBI data is that while they show reported crimes has gone down, the new National Crime Victimization data shows that people think reported crime has gone up. And I think what happens is people believe that simply calling up 911 amounts to reporting a crime. But as far as the FBI is concerned, that doesn't count. You actually have to have a police report filled out. And so what's happened is while the people have been calling up 911 more, they've been seeing fewer police reports filled out.
You know, I was speaking to a police officer friend of mine over the weekend, and he said like 80% of my job is just doing paperwork. I live in a pretty
Right.
safe community. I'm not complaining. But if you know that what you're about to report is just going to end up in the circular file, right? And most police officers, when they're dealing with some things like, you really want to fill out the paperwork, right? We're not, and I understand why police officers don't want it to just be mired in paperwork. Nobody wants to be mired in paperwork. But all of that is contributing to this phony belief that crime is on the decline.
Right. Well, I mean, you bring up an excellent point. Look, you look at a place like Chicago. Every time a police officer talks to somebody, they have to fill out 2 legal pages of reports that talk about who they talked to them, why they talked to them, where they talked to them, what they talked to them about. And it can take an hour on average or so for them to go and fill out the report. So you go talk to 4 people in the morning, your whole afternoon is taking up dealing with paperwork. In California, if a police officer stops somebody for a traffic offense and gives them a citation, it takes about 45 minutes for them to go and fill out the police report. And among the bizarre questions that the police officer has to answer is trying to guess what the sexual orientation is of the person that they pulled over. But what you've seen in many counties in California for the sheriffs that I've talked to is about a 50% drop in traffic stops. And you see that for 2 reasons. One is you've essentially removed the officers from doing their job because they're having to fill out the paperwork. And secondly, they're reticent to go and pull somebody over because they really dread having to do the paperwork there. And so the question is, if you think, obviously for serious crimes, there's an effect as you're talking about, but even for traffic stops, if, you're not giving tickets for people, running stop signs, or if you're not giving them tickets for going excessive speeds, do we think there's a reason why we have those rules? Do we think that there'll be more accidents and more deaths as a result of that? But you've effectively reduced the number of police officers on the job, even if, the official count of police officers stays the same.
Yeah, and if they know that prosecutors are not going to, prosecute the crimes, or liberal judges are not going to hand down sentence, why am I bothering? If somebody's running out of a store with merchandise, and I know it's a waste of my time to chase them, and the store policy is that, oh, well, that's what we have insurance for. Then all right, then you're going to watch crime go up. All right, Dr. Lott, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah,
sure. People can find more at our website at crimeresearch.org, but thank you very much.
crimeresearch.org.